This is the section P.5. We're going to talk about adding, subtracting, and multiplying polynomials. All stuff that we've seen before. We kind of get out of the fraction stuff for a little bit. So that will be helpful, I know. If we're talking about simplifying answers and writing using rational exponents. Rational exponents means what kind of exponents? Fractions, right? Okay, so let's rewrite number one. How can I rewrite number one all in fractional or rational exponents? That cube, this little index becomes my what? Comes the denominator. So this is really 8 to the 1/3, x to the 2/3, over what little index is in front of the radical in the denominator? 2. So this becomes x to the what? 1/2. Good. All right. Do you guys see how we have an x on the top and x on the bottom? Yes? So that means we're going to do what to our exponents? We're going to subtract them. So we're going to real quick go 2/3 minus 1/2. What's the common denominator? 6. Good. So multiply 3 in the bottom, 3 in the top. So 3 over 6. 2 in the bottom, 2 in the top. So what's 4? 6 minus 3/6. 1/6. So I'm left with, this is going to be 8 to the 1/3, which really means what? What number of times itself 3 times gives us 8? 2. Good. X to the 1/6. All right, let's skip down here. What property are we going to use in 3 and 4? Distributive. Good. Guys, remember, when you multiply, same base as you add exponents. So if I have 3x times 3x, 3x times x, that gives me what? 3x squared. Good. Then I have 3x times 5 gives me what? 15. Plus 15x. Can I do anything else to combine here? Why not? They both have x's. One of them's x squared. Good. They have to be exactly the same in order to combine like terms. So that's it. You're done. What about here? What do I do with negative 4x? What is distributed to everything? So I have a negative 4x times positive 2x squared. Well, negative 4 and 2 is negative 8. And then if I have x times x squared, that gives me x to the... Good. So then I have negative times a negative is a positive. So 4 times 3 is 12. X times x is x squared. Good. Then I have negative 4x times 1, which just gives me what? Negative 4x. Good. Very good. Questions? We okay? All right, what's next? You guys need to be familiar with all of these words, okay? I'm going to talk to you about different things. You have to understand what I'm talking about. A polynomial. Poly means what? Multiple. So you're going to have expressions and equations that have multiple terms. Trinomial. The word tri means what? 3. Tricycle, 3 wheels. Binomial. A bicycle has how many? 2. Anything more than 3, we'll just call it a polynomial, but 4 terms, 5 terms, anything like that. If you notice here, 5x plus 1, this is a binomial. These 2 at the bottom are called monomials. What does mono mean? 1, okay? So, if I ask you how many terms something has, terms are separated by plus and minus signs. Whatever the sign is in front of the term goes with it. So in this case, like in this first example, there's 2x squared is a term, negative 3x is a term, and 4 is a term. Everybody see that? Another word for 4, it is a term, it's a constant. It's a constant because it doesn't have a variable with it. But terms are separated by plus and minus signs. So in this case here, if I had like y to the 4th, z to the 2nd, that's still just one term because there's no plus or minus sign. Do you guys see that? Plus and minus signs separate terms. And then when I talk about degree, degree means the highest exponent that you see. It doesn't have to be the first one, it just has to be the highest. So like in this example, if I asked you how many terms, there'd be 4. 8, negative x, x squared, and negative x cubed. What's the highest degree? What's the degree of this polynomial? 3, because it's the highest or biggest exponent. So you need to be familiar with those vocabulary words, okay? The degree of a constant means you're always looking at the highest exponent. if this was just a number, which it is, this you could also say is x to the 0 power. What is anything raised to the 0 power? 1. A lot of people missed that yesterday on your test. It was a gimme. A lot of people missed that. So if you have just a constant, guys, look what the degree is. It's 0. So just make sure you're paying attention to that. All right, when we add, do you guys see how we have one parenthesis, then a plus sign in the middle, then another parenthesis? Let's talk about this first parenthesis. Well, how many terms are there? 4 terms. What's the degree of the first expression?
3.
3, good. In the second parenthesis, how many terms do we have?
3.
3, what do we call that? Trinomial, good. What's the degree?
3.
3. Okay, when we are adding, guys, look, the first thing you need to do is say, okay, look, I have a plus sign in the middle. That means all we have to do is combine like terms. So I'm going to use a bit of highlighting. I have x to the third. Start with the highest degree. I have x to the third. Is there anything else that has an x to the third? Yes, there's one over here, right? So if I have 1x to the third and 1x to the third, it gives me how many? Nope, we're adding. 2x to the third. All right, then I'm going to look at it and say, okay, well, I have a negative, remember the sign in front goes with the term, negative 6x squared and a positive 5x squared. Well, what's negative 6 plus 5? Negative 1, so negative 1x squared. Do I have to write the 1? No. Now I'm going to say, okay, now I'm going to go down to the first degree. I have just x, so net positive 2x minus 7x. What's 2 minus 7? Negative 5x, good. And then what's left over all by itself? Plus 4. Can I do any more combining here? No, how come? Because why? They all have different, we'll call it last names. I have an x cubed, x squared, x, and 4, constant. All right, now if I move along here, how is this problem different? There's a subtraction. Why is this different? Why do we have to be a little more careful when we have something like this? We have to distribute. Good. Look, right here, whoops. Right here is a 1. That means I have to distribute negative 1 to everything in the second parenthesis. So I'm going to rewrite the first parenthesis. X cubed minus 6x squared plus 2x plus 4. Now I have negative 1 times x cubed gives me what? Negative x cubed. Great. Negative 1 times positive 5x squared. Good. Negative 5x squared. Negative 1 times negative 7. Positive 7x.
Teachers, at this time, please dismiss only the...
Okay, now that we've distributed that negative, we're just going to combine like terms. So the first thing I'm going to look for is the highest exponent. What's the highest exponent you see? X cubed. So let's highlight all the x cubes we have. We have one there, and I have one here. Remember, the sign in the front of the term goes with it. So if I have a positive x cubed minus x cubed, what happens? It cancels out. So then I'm going to say, okay, I have negative x squared, a negative here. So negative 6 minus 5 gives me what? Good. Negative 11 x squared. You guys got to really focus on your signs. So I have positive 2x and a positive 7x. Gives me what? Positive 9x. Great. And then what am I left over with? Plus 4. If you don't distribute that negative in the very first step, your whole problem is going to be wrong. So just make sure you guys are paying attention to that, please. All right, what are we doing here? We're going to FOIL. We're going to multiply. Does everybody remember how to FOIL? F-O-I-L. First, outer, inner, last. Use your arrows. Keep yourself straight. So I have 2x times 3x gives me 6x squared. Good. Now I have 2x times negative 5. Negative 10x. Good. Then I have 1 times 3x plus 3x. And then I have 1 times negative 5. Negative 5. And then what can we do in the middle right here? Combine like terms. I have a 6x squared, that stays. If I have negative 10x plus 3 is what? Negative 7x, good. And then minus 5. Good job. You guys remember this? Right? It's not horrible. I know this is way better than our fraction stuff. Okay, exact same thing, guys. We just have bigger exponents. No worries. FOIL the exact same way. I'm going to say 2x squared times 2x squared is 4x to the 4th. Good. 2x squared times negative 1. Negative 2x squared. Great. Negative 3 times 2x squared. Negative 6x squared. Great. And then negative 3 times negative 1? Plus 3. Good. Now what can we do in the middle? Combine like terms. Remember, the sign in front of the term goes with it. So I have 4x to the 4th. Negative 2x squared. Negative 6x squared. Negative 8x squared. It's good. And then what? Plus 3. Perfect. Good job. Good, good, good. All right, same thing. I just have an extra term. I have a binomial times a what? A trinomial. So I'm going to have to FOIL, distribute, however you want to look at it. I'm going to say 2x times x squared is 2x to the 3rd. Good. 2x times negative 5x. Negative 10x squared. Great. 2x times 4. Perfect. Plus 8x. Guys, if you want to bring color pencils and markers and all that stuff to keep yourself organized, it's perfectly fine. It's prettier for me to grade. What's 3 times x squared? 3x squared. Good. What's 3 times negative 5x? Negative 15x. Fantastic. And then 3 times 4? 12. And then do we just leave it all messy like this? What do we do? Perfect. So start with the biggest exponent you see. 2x cubed. Is there anything else that has the last name of x cubed? Nope. So just rewrite it. 2x cubed. All right. Then I have what? Okay. Negative 10x squared and 3x squared. So what's negative 10 plus 3? Perfect. Negative 7x squared. And then I have positive 8x and negative 15x. So what's 8 minus 15? Negative 7x. And then what's all by itself? 4. That's all right. What's all by itself? Plus 12 at the end. Great. And then can I combine anything? Why not? You are right. Why not? They don't have like terms. Good. Good. Good job, guys. Our algebra skills sound pretty good. All right, same thing. Same exact thing. This is really good practice. I'm going to say first, x squared times 2x cubed. 2x to the 5th. Good. X squared times 4x. 4x cubed. Good. X squared times negative 1. Negative x squared. Good. All right, then we're going to do second term. Negative 2 times 2x cubed. Negative 4x cubed. Negative 2 times 4x. Negative 8x. Good. And then negative 2 times negative 1. Positive 2. Good. Those of you who are playing along and participating, good job. You guys are going to have a test on 2 sections. Some of you are really need to come up from your test grade, so you should be paying attention. Anything else have x to the 5th? Nope, so just rewrite it. 2x to the 5th. What about, do we have an x to the 4th anywhere? X to the 4th? No. You're fine, you're fine. So I have now x cubed here, x cubed here. Well, what's positive 4x cubed minus 4x cubed? 0. Just crosses out. Do you have to write the 0? No. So then I have negative x squared. Anything else have an x squared? So negative x squared. Good. Then I have what? Negative 8x. And then what's all by itself? Plus 2. Perfect. Perfect. All right, now we're going to talk about some special products formulas. It's nice to know these formulas because then you don't have to do as much work or as much thinking. There's the sum and difference of terms. You guys have seen this before. When it's the same exact parentheses, but one has a plus, one has a minus. It's called the difference difference of squares. When you have the same parenthesis twice, there's a pattern when you're adding them and when you're subtracting them. And then there's perfect cubes. So what I did here was I screenshot on every single slide the patterns so you can identify what pattern 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 goes with example A here. 3x plus 5 quantity squared. Which pattern is that? Is it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5? It's 2, right? So it should say, this is my A term, this is my B term. So in order to do number 2, you would square the A term, right? Then what? Plus 2A times B plus the B term squared. Now, what 3x plus 5 squared mean? Did you write out 3x plus 5 twice? But if you know the pattern, then you don't have to think that much. If my first term is 3x, okay, my first term is 3x, so I'm going to square it, plus 2 times the first term is 3x times the second term is 5, plus my B term, which is 5 squared. Do you guys see where I got those numbers from? Everybody with me? Now, if I have that 2 on the outside of the parentheses, that means that 2 goes to what? Just the x? The x and the 3. Good. So this is 9x squared. Plus, what is 2 times 3? 6x. And then what's 6x times 5? 30. So 30x plus, what's 5 squared? 25. All right? Now, what we just did was 3x plus 5 times 3x plus 5. If I FOIL that out, what's 3x times 3x? 9x squared. What's 3x times 5? 15x. What's 5 times 3x? What's 5 times 5? When I combine in the middle, I have 9x squared plus 30x plus 25. Is that not what we came out with when we used our special pattern? So you can always go back and check. But it's really helpful, especially when the numbers get big or it's helpful to know these patterns. You can just recognize it quickly and then you can just move on. Especially if you're starting off with 9x squared plus 30x plus 25 and you have to factor, which we'll get to in a little bit. Not today. But you would multiply 9 times 25 and then figure out factors that make it's just a lot. So if you know the special patterns, it makes it a little easier. All right, which pattern, 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5, is example B? It's number 5 right here. So my A term, the pattern is A cubed, right? A cubed minus 3A squared B plus 3AB squared minus B cubed, right? All I did was just rewrite it. So this is my A term. This is my B term. So fill in the pattern. Instead of A, I'm going to have x squared cubed minus 3 times x squared squared negative 2. Then I have plus 3 a squared negative 2 squared. Actually, this isn't negative. The negative will work itself out. Then minus 2 cubed. So if we simplify this, what's x squared then cubed? X to the 6th, good. Minus 3, what? This becomes what? X to the 4th, right? And then negative 3 and 2 is what? X to the 4th. This is what? 4. So 4 times 3 is, so plus 12 x squared minus, what's 2 cubed? Yep. Now, how could you check that to make sure you did that correctly? What would you have to do? From the beginning, how would you check that? What does x squared minus 2 cubed mean? X squared minus 2 times x squared minus 2 times x squared minus 2. When you have something squared, it's easy to just write it twice and FOIL it. But when you get up to cubes and stuff like that, this right here, doing this, could get messy. So if you just kind of get yourself working through the patterns, it's not that bad at all. I know it seems like a lot. Okay, what about this one? Don't worry that it has radicals and stuff like that in it. Which pattern is that?
First one?
It is the...
No.
Yeah, you're right. It's the first one. What's your A term?
Yeah.
Right? This is A plus B times A minus B. Right?
Yeah.
Agreed? So it's really A squared minus B squared. So what is your A term? 2x. What is your B term? Square root y. So you would just write 2x, what? Squared minus square root of y squared. That 2 goes to what? To the 2 and to the x. Good. So this is 4x squared minus, what happens when you square square root? Cancels out. So just y. Okay? Guys are quiet on me. Anybody? Does this look like it matches anything? Does it look like any of our patterns? Okay, what if you look at this and you just don't immediately see a pattern? What is this question asking you to do?
What?
FOIL. Can you distribute? We can do this. If you don't recognize the pattern, don't worry about it. Let's do x first. What's x times x? X squared, good. What's x times y? So plus xy. And then what's x times 1? Plus x, okay? Now I'm going to switch colors. I'm going to do the same thing, but with y. What's y times x? So I'm going to say plus xy. What's y times y?
Y squared.
Good. And then what's y times 1? Good. So now negative 1. What's negative 1 times x? Negative 1x. What's negative 1 times y? Negative y. And what's a negative 1 and a positive 1? Negative 1. Now combine like terms. I see an x squared. Are there any other x squareds? Okay, so write x squared. I see xy and xy. Well, it's one xy and another xy. How many xy's is that? 2's. 2. Just, I said it like my kids. Okay, now I have a positive x and a negative x. What happens? Cancels out. So then I have y squared. Anything else have a y squared? Huh? Anything else y squared? Plus y squared. I have a positive y and a negative y. What do? Cancels out. And then what's left over here? Minus 1. There you go. If you don't automatically recognize it or anything like that, no worries. You can always go back to just your normal distributing or foiling. Say it again.
What would that mean?
It's not one of them.
I'm not one.
And that's okay. All right, that's it.